Felix Auger Aliassime points out the big difference between Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner as urgency grows on the ATP Tour. Having struggled in 2023, Auger Aliassime was unable to bounce back in 2024, as he finished the year ranked 29th in the world for the second year running. The Canadian once peaked at 6th in the world, after a fantastic end to the year in 2022, but hasn't been able to reach those heights since. It wasn't all bad for Auger Aliassime on the ATP Tour in 2024, however, as he enjoyed several strong results on clay. Auger Aliassime reached the Madrid Open final earlier this year, losing to Andrei Rublev 6-4, 5-7, 5-7, having remarkably advanced through 3 rounds via retirements and walkovers. Auger Aliassime then won a bronze medal in the Olympic mixed doubles tournament, alongside Gabriela Dabrowski. Some positives to take from a tough year, as the 24-year-old has been looking closely at 2 of the world's best players ahead of the 2025 season. Speaking in an interview ahead of the 2025 season, Auger Aliassime revealed how the rest of the ATP Tour feel about Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner. There is a sense of urgency in a way if we want to stay in touch with them. Alcaraz is at 4 Grand Slams now and the Nat too. There is a sense of urgency, like okay, you can't let them win more. If they do, congrats to them, but they will just start pulling away. Let's try not to let them win every slam from now on. Auger Aliassime went on to say what was so impressive about Alcaraz's rise to the top of men's tennis. Alcaraz, we saw from the moment he stepped on his first Grand Slam that he was going to be special, like crazy special, he said. I was able to get some wins over him the first time we played, but it has been hard the last time we played. His rise was one of a kind, the youngest number 1 in the world. Alcaraz's rise to number 1 was different from that of his biggest rival, something that the Canadian star recognized. Sinner is a bit different from Alcaraz because let's say 2 years ago he didn't finish the year in the top 10. Now his rise, we always knew his qualities and he was always going to be a top player, but the year he has had is one of a kind as well. I was impressed many times with how consistent he was able to be and play at. He had a great finish last year, started beating some guys that he was struggling to beat, but I don't think when he won the Australian Open it was already like wow. But the year he had was like Roger Federer in 2005 or 2006. Despite suffering a decline in form over the past few years, Auger Aliassime still possesses the ability to beat anyone on the ATP Tour. He showed that with several wins over the top players in men's tennis, including Alcaraz and Sinner. The Canadian leads the combined head-to-head against the pair 5-4, having won his first 3 matches against Alcaraz, and both of his career meetings with Sinner. The tide has turned over the last year or so, however, as Alcaraz rattled off 4 consecutive wins against Auger Aliassime. Perhaps the biggest of which came at this year's Olympic Games, where the 21-year-old booked his place in the gold medal match, dropping just 2 games. Auger Aliassime will try to forget about his most recent meetings against the world number 3, and look back upon his previous successes for inspiration, should the pair face off once again in the new year. The Canadian began his 2025 season at the United Cup, where Canada were knocked out in the group stages after defeat to the United States.